the button is to...
In listen-only mode.
All right, we're good.
Okay. What's up, everybody that is joining us for the webinar live? I know some of you guys that aren't here live because you said you couldn't make it in the middle of the day, which I can't say that I blame you for that, but we are going to have a replay of this up on the Flipping Teardowns ClickFunnels page while it's still available. So for those of you that are making it live, I want to thank you for joining me. I will try and make this as entertaining and educational as I possibly can for you. So we'll get started here in about 30 seconds. Just give everybody time to get gathered. If you want to take notes, feel free. I've got a slideshow that I'm going to go through. You can always watch the replay, though. But I'm going to kind of say a lot of things during the slideshow also. So if you want to take notes, go ahead. If you want to just soak it in, you can do that as well. Like I said, I'm going to try and get a lot of really good gold nuggets within the webinar as well. Obviously, the Flipping Teardowns training has a ton of them also, but I want to make sure to make it worth your guys' time that you showed up here today. So I will definitely be trying to over-deliver for you. All right, so Dan, we're going to hit it. Let's just do it. 2:02, we're 2 minutes in. Let's do it. Okay. All right, guys, welcome for the second or third time I've said that, but welcome to the Flipping Teardowns webinar. I'm your host, Tucker Merrihew. A lot of you guys probably know who I am. Maybe some of you guys don't know quite who I am as much, but that's who I am. So that's slide one. Let's go to slide two, which is who am I? Let's just kind of run through this real quick. Again, some of you guys probably know who I am. But I think it's just important to make sure everybody has enough background about who I am before I start talking about this product so that you know why you should listen. So first and foremost, I'm a real estate investor. Obviously, we have an education side to our business, which is why we're here today. But first and foremost, I'm a real estate investor. My company is TTM Development Company here in the Portland metro area of Portland, Oregon. We are, arguably, the most successful residential real estate investment company here in Portland. There are conveyor belt builders and there's some bigger companies, but in terms of, the size of the company and the amount of dollars that we generate, I don't know that there's anybody better at it than us. So we are a real estate company. We're doing deals every day. You can see my office here behind me. I'm not working at home in a spare bedroom. This is an office right next to me over here. That way, where the pen's pointing. Chris is in the other office right now. He's actually on the phone with a new seller that just called in, and then Dan's another office over. So this is what we do, guys. This is our real estate investing business, and again, we have an education arm to it, and that's why we're here today. Part of that education arm is also the Real Deals podcast, which is where probably a lot of you guys, learned who I am and maybe learned a little bit more about what my business does on a weekly basis. We've been going on almost 3 years now with the Real Deals podcast, 2.5 years. So it's been a real successful show. I've had a lot of fun doing it, and it's allowed me to connect with probably a lot of you guys that are on today for today's webinar. It's allowed me to connect with investors all across the country for our Deal Finders Academy. We have people in virtually every major metro all over the country, and without the podcast, I never would have been able to have those relationships. So it's really cool. I'm also, if you go down the screen here, the co-host of the Portland Real Estate Podcast. I've got 2 shows. The second show, the Portland Real Estate Podcast, is more specific to Portland. I have a co-host who's arguably, one of the biggest realtors in the Portland area here. I've known him for almost 15 years. We started in the mortgage business together back in 2002, and his career has gone a little different direction than mine. He went into the real estate side after the mortgage game. I went into the development and building side, renovating. But we have a nice complement of each other, and so the Portland Real Estate Podcast. If you haven't listened to that, you can look it up on iTunes. We're 44 episodes in that, whereas we're 120 some episodes into the Real Deals Podcast. So it hasn't been around quite as long, but it's been incredibly successful here locally, and that's what we've used it for. We used it as a way to connect with every other major player in town in the real estate market. So it's been really cool to do that show, and that's more of a labor of love show, but it's definitely one that I'm glad we do. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. And then last but not least, the Deal Finders Academy. I alluded to this earlier. I am the creator. I guess it should say co-creator. Dan has obviously done a lot of the heavy lifting to help me create this academy, but this is our academy that People have joined from pretty much every major metro all across the country. We have somewhere between 110 and 120 members currently, and that is where I get to connect with people on a daily basis, give advice, tell stories, basically talk about being in the real estate trenches and what we're doing on a day in, day out basis in order to generate deals and make money. And so that's, if you guys haven't checked that out, I really encourage you to do so. We've got a lot of great people in there, and I'm just really happy to have been able to build a relationship with all of them. So anyway, that's who I am in a nutshell. Let me advance the slide here. We'll go to the next one. So next thing is, why should you listen to me? Obviously, I went through all the things that I am and do in the previous slide, but why should you listen to me when it comes to this webinar, which is Flipping Teardowns? And now, Flipping Teardowns it's a niche within the real estate investing game, essentially, right? That's what it is in its simplest sense. And so, why should you listen to me about it? Well, number one is, I've built, our entire business for the most part over the last 4 years off of sourcing teardown properties. We've flipped a lot, we've wholesaled a lot, but we've also kept a ton of them because we also build new construction. But we don't have to. You don't have to build new construction to make a ton of money in this niche. But this is really the basis for the massive profitability that TTM Development Company has been able to create over the last 4+ years, and that's been finding teardown properties and then either flipping them to builders or tearing them down and building them ourselves. And so, we practice what we preach. This is what we do day in and day out, and this is why I feel that you should listen to me when it comes to this. I'm not selling some pie in the sky thing that we don't do. This is literally something that we do day in and day out, and there's just not a lot of people that really do it well. And we have fine-tuned it, and we have, we know every aspect of how to do this and how to do it great, and we've crammed it all into our Flipping Teardowns training, and I'm going to talk a lot about it here on this webinar also. So that's why you should listen to me. Next slide is, let me grab a drink here real quick. Why does this niche offer the biggest opportunity in real estate right now? So here's my take on this, right? You hear a lot of people saying that they do 10, 15, 20 deals a month, and congratulations to them. That's great. The only thing about that is that the more deals you do, the more stress, the more dollars you have to spend on your marketing, the more support staff you have to have in place to help turn those deals around and qualify those leads and get them under contract and then flip them out. You have a lot of moving parts, and that hamster has to run pretty damn fast on that wheel in order to keep up with that type of volume in order to make the quote-unquote big money in this business. And so, a few years ago, we were doing a pretty big volume, probably 2010, 2011-ish. We were doing a lot of rehabs. And, we stumbled into the new construction, flipping teardowns niche initially. But once we got into it, we started to realize that, we make a lot more money on 1 or 2 deals than we do on doing 8 or 10 other types of deals. And so, I started to think in terms of working smarter and not harder, and the better and better we got at, the flipping teardowns niche, the more and more money we made by an exponential amount. And so I truly feel that this niche is the most bang for your buck that you can create in this business. So in terms of marketing dollars spent, in terms of energy put into it, in terms of profit per deal, all those things, it's at the absolute top of the list. There's just no niche that can be as profitable and have as much opportunity as the flipping teardowns niche. It just, hands down, it's not. Now, I will say there's a small caveat to that, and that some markets are not as good for this niche as others. If you don't have new construction, infill new construction going on in your market somewhere, then this is going to be a more challenging niche to make the big money. That doesn't mean you still can't make great assignment fees, but to make the big money that I'm going to talk about later in the presentation, it can be a little more challenging because it basically means that you're probably in a low dollar market, and anytime you're in a low dollar market, there's just only so much meat on the bone, and so it's hard to make a $100,000 assignment fee if you're in a market where the median home price is $175,000 or $150,000 or $125,000. So it's not that it can't be done, but I don't want to, sell you guys a line of crap and say you can make a $100,000 assignment fee really easy if you're in a super, super low dollar market that doesn't have other areas of the market that are higher priced. St. Louis, for example, is a pretty dynamic market. It has those areas where you can buy houses for 100 grand or less that are kind of cash flow rental areas, but it also has mid to upper end areas where you can sell new construction for $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. So some markets have that dynamicness to them. Other markets are just all around pretty cheap. Spokane is one of those markets that's, for the most part, is cheap, all the way around. So just something to be aware of. All right, so let's jump to the next slide. All right, so what does flipping teardowns actually mean? Let's get into the nitty-gritty here of what it exactly means. In its simplest form, all it is sourcing deals, right? You're sourcing deals, but the type of deals that you're sourcing are houses where the dirt or the lot value has exceeded what the structure can offer. You're basically finding properties that are no longer the highest and best use for the lot. So that means that the house can be tore down and a new, bigger, nicer house can be built in its place because that's the highest and best use for the lot. So that's really what it is in its simplest terms. So finding a house, it could be, a rundown, raggedy, Boo Radley looking house, and I've got a picture of one of those that coming up in one of our examples that just hasn't been taken care of. It has a lot of deferred maintenance, and it's just falling down, and it's probably a little bit on the smaller side as well, 800-900 square feet. That could be one example. Another example could be, and one of the other examples I'm going to show you here, it could be a smaller, 900 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch style home in a, $700, $800, $900 million area. That little ranch, all of a sudden, there's not much value to the structure because the dirt is worth so much. So those are just two examples. But basically, flipping teardowns means finding those types of inventory or those types of deals that then you can either keep, knock down, and build yourself, or if you're just on the wholesaling side and you're not a builder, which a lot of you are, you find those deals, you lock them up, and then you flip those deals over to a builder who needs inventory in those desirable areas in order to build, because that's what they do. That's how they make money. They don't make money or they're not set up to market and utilize a lot of the skill sets that we have as real estate investors. Their skill set is construction and building. And so flipping teardowns means finding inventory that can be tore down and a new home or homes could be built in its place. And so I'll talk about what I mean by that, homes, plural, here in one of our examples also. So that's what flipping teardowns is in its simplest explanation. All right, so how do we as real estate investors take advantage of this niche? And so this is something where I want to try and get your thought process probably a little different than what you normally think of as a real estate investor in terms of looking for these types of deals and taking advantage of this niche, right? A lot of times we as real estate investors are told, well, if it's a 2-bedroom house, I'm not even interested, right? If it's a smaller 2-bedroom house, pass. We're not interested because our buyers don't want to buy anything that's less than 3 bedrooms, or they don't want to buy anything that's less than 1.5 baths. So if you got a 2-bedroom, 1-bath that's like 800 square feet, most real estate investors think of that as not a good lead because it doesn't fit the conventional mold of what their rehab buyers might want to have or purchase from them to work on and then try and retail it. Well, that's true. Rehabbers don't necessarily like 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes unless they're doing add-ons, but there aren't many people that do that well, so who you're selling to is a very slim market in terms of rehabbers that have the financial and construction capabilities to do that well and allow you to make a decent profit at the same time. So if you do come across these types of leads, they're not best suited for rehabbers most of the time. What they are best suited for is builders. Builders who can then tear down that 2-bedroom, 1-bath house and build a bigger, nicer house in its place. But how do we take advantage of this niche, right? Well, we as real estate investors have to market to find, if we're selling to rehabbers, we want to find the 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath or 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes or 4-bedroom, 2-bath homes. We market for those and we find them, we put them under contract, and we sell them to rehabbers, right? Well, the same thing applies for finding the other type of inventory. We can identify, market to, and lock up deals that are 2-bedroom, 1-bath, or 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 800, 700, 900 square foot houses that rehabbers may not, like at all because of what they have to offer, or what the existing structure has to offer. As a builder, they don't care what the existing structure has to offer. The only thing they care about is what the neighborhood has to offer and what the lot has to offer. That's it. And so I really want to try and change your thinking when you have leads that come into your market or into your marketing funnel, and you get a lead like this, and you can target exact houses like this as well, and we do it all the time. But before we get into targeting those types of leads, I just want to try and change your thinking about being able to identify when you get a lead like that. Okay, now this might be a flipping teardown lead and not a flipping rehab lead. If that makes sense. So I really want to kind of stress that, because most real estate investors just they write off these types of deals. You're spending all this money and time to market to try and get leads in, and then if you get a lead in like this and you don't take advantage of it, you're just flushing tons of money down the toilet. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. All right, so let's get into an example of a flipping teardown deal. And this would be a ranch. On the left here, you'll see what the original house was. On the right, you'll see the house that we actually kept and built. So I'm going to look at this a few different ways. Number one is how we did it as a builder. But number two is, number one is I'll talk about it if we were just going to flip this house as a teardown, what our profitability would have been. And then I'll talk about, we kept it when we actually built it out ourselves. And I'll talk about what our final numbers were. We actually just closed this deal up last week. But what we did here is we did some driving for dollars, and we essentially went after homes that were under 1,000 square feet. This particular home was 900 square feet. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch. Doesn't look that bad from the curb, right? Most of you guys are saying, why would you tear that house down? Well, you're right. It looks okay from the curb. Inside, it was god-awful. It was had carpet on top of carpet. They'd smoked in it. They'd had dogs in the house. I mean, it would have had to have been a gut. So it looked decent from the outside. What you can't see is that it had old aluminum windows. It had an electric furnace. It was just, it was very ratty and just had a lot of deferred maintenance. It looks okay from the curb, but as soon as you get closer, it wasn't. It was going to need a lot of rehab. And so, we realized that it needed some work, but more importantly, we targeted it because it was a smaller home in $1 million area. And so this home sat on about a 12,000 square foot lot, and it was zoned R10, which means it's only one lot, but it was 12,000 square feet. And so it was a good sized lot, a little bigger than what the minimum lot size is for the area, but that's why it was only one lot and it couldn't be subdivided into two. Now, I'll show you real quick another picture here so you guys can see what we did here. So on the left here, that's the house when we first got under contract. On the right here, that's the finished product that we sold to an end buyer that just closed last week. The next picture, here you go, you can see, so we knocked the house down. There you go. There's the chimney that you saw in the other picture coming out of the house. Here's the house in, in pieces. We dumpstered it up, and then they scraped the lot, and they started digging out for the new foundation, and that's what the lot looks like with no house on it. So obviously a pretty big change there from what it was originally, but I just want to kind of make the point here of what, this is actually a teardown. We tore it down. This is not something we're making up here. So next slide is how do we negotiate this deal and what were the numbers? Let's talk about that, and I'll go back so you guys can see the picture. So, all right, so like I said, this was a driving for dollars lead. We mailed this individual a couple of times, I think it took for him to call us. It was owned by a gentleman whose daughter lived in the house. The daughter had all kinds of problems, including a drug problem, which is why the house was in complete disrepair, and he wanted to sell it without doing anything to the house. He wanted a number of $325,000. That's what he was going to list it for if he was going to list it on the RMLS. We got him down to $300,000 for the house. Basically said, look, if you list it, you're going to pay 6% in real estate commissions, which is going to be about 18 grand, and you'll probably sit on it for a little while. You'll have to deal with some headache. So let's say we give you $300,000, basically minus real estate commission and a small discount for making ease of transaction. He said, okay. So we got this property. We bought it for $300,000. Now, at this point, there's a couple things here that you need to recognize. Number one is we created a margin purely by extracting what would have been the real estate commissions out of it. Now, we did get a small additional margin of $7,000 just for ease of transaction that we were able to get out of the guy, But even if we hadn't gotten that 300 and $7,000 number, if that was where we settled, it still would have been a great deal. But we ended up getting him all the way down to 300. Now he thought the house itself was probably worth, I don't know, 350 or so if it was fixed up. But he recognized that the lot was probably worth, in his mind, I don't even think he really went there. He just thought the house was probably worth around 350 fixed up, and he figured it needed 25 in work. He didn't want to do that, so that's how he landed on 325. So we ended up buying it for 300. What he didn't know and what he didn't recognize is that, builders at the time probably would have paid somewhere around 375 for this lot, and when we first bought it. Now, builders would probably pay anywhere upwards of maybe 4.25 for the lot, so 425,000. So, but conservatively, we could have flipped this property for probably 75 or 80 grand right away if we'd flipped it to another builder, and we could have done it lickety split because this property is in an amazing area. I actually live in this area, and it was one of the last kind of crappier houses on the street. So initially, if we were going to flip this thing, we could have flipped it for 75 or 80 grand. I'll go through some examples here of other people in our DFA that are actually flipping them to other builders because they're not builders yet and the money they made. But I want to just kind of show you guys the difference of if you want to flip them yourself, what you can make, and then if you want to build them yourself, what you can ultimately make. So we could have made probably 75, 80 grand on a quick flip. We decided not to do that. We actually built the new house. So we bought it for 300. We built it for around 400,000, just under. So we were all in about 700, and we sold it for 1.1 million. So you do the math on that. We've obviously got some carrying costs and some selling costs on our end, but we still did pretty damn good. We're somewhere, 350,000-ish or so is where we settled on our net profit on that deal. So you could see though why a builder, would have gladly paid us, $75,000, $80,000 premium over what we paid for it, to then sell the property, essentially a like house, like the one we built, for around 1.1 million. They still would have made, $260,000, $270,000 or more. That's a pretty easy sell, and we might even have been able to get more, than that 75 or 80 grand if we had flipped it out. But you can see how the margins there. You could see why that could be exciting. So you, as a wholesaler, you want to find deals like this, and you provide a teardown to a builder where they can make a big chunk of change. Of course, they're not going to care what you make, right? You could have made almost 6 figures on this flip if this was you, or if we wanted to, and they wouldn't even have batted an eye because they've got a big paycheck staring at them. All they have to do is build the house. So bottom line here is that a couple takeaways. Number one is, not all houses have to be super little shit shacks, right? They can appear like this sometimes. It just depends on the area, right? You want to make sure that you know what your area has to offer in terms of values. The higher end the area, the more you can incorporate houses like this as opposed to little shit shacks that are also you're able to market to. And then number two is, to create a margin for yourself, you can extract what would be real estate commissions. Now, here's the beauty and the thing you need to take away from this. By extracting real estate commissions, if you're selling to a rehabber, right, it's hard to sell, anything to a rehabber at 100 cents on the dollar of what it's worth as a rehabable property. Everybody wants a big discount, or as much of a discount as they can get. The beauty with selling to builders is they don't care about a discount. They just want to pay what the lot's worth. So if the lot's, if we had this guy thinking that the house or the lot's worth 325,000, and we get him down to 300 with, minusing out real estate commissions and a small little additional discount, we just created a $25,000 margin for ourselves if that was in fact the true value of what the lot was. And I mean, 25 grand, that's a hell of an assignment fee right there, right? That would have been well worth doing this deal. As it turns out, obviously the assignment fee on this could have been a hell of a lot more than that, 3+ times that. But there's just a concept there that I want you guys to understand when you're flipping to a builder versus flipping to a rehabber. You flip to a rehabber, they always want to get the best deal they can possibly get from you. They almost feel sometimes as if you beat them to the deal, and they don't always love that, but they'll pay you for it. And so it's always much more of an uphill battle to get those big assignment fees. With a builder, they don't care what you got it for. They just want to make sure that they're buying it at their max, at their maximum allowable purchase price for lots in that area or less. But they'll pay up to that maximum allowable price, no problem, as long as it's great inventory, and you can make whatever you want. They don't care. So a really important concept to think about there. All right, so there's the pictures again. We went through the numbers, how we negotiated it. All right, let's go to an example number 2. Here's another example. This is one that we're actually working on right now. And this one's a little different in a few ways, and that's why I want to talk about it. So you look at the house on the left here, right? That is your classic Boo Radley little shit shack. That's the one that, probably most of you guys are out there envisioning as a teardown. This was your classic teardown. Now, this was also in a neighborhood that is, single-family homes are selling for, at the time, they were selling for around $800,000-900,000. Now they're selling for around $1.1 million because the market's improved since we got this thing tied up under contract and bought it. So the house there, it's gone now. The lot has been scraped. But here's how we negotiated this one, and here's a little, I guess, golden nugget for you guys. This particular house sits on a lot that's 5,000 square feet. The zoning for this lot that's 5,000 square feet is R2.5. Actually, the lot's about 6,000 square feet. It's 5,900 and some change. But the zoning is R2.5, which means the minimum lot size for where that house is right there on that lot is 2,500 square feet. The lot itself is about 5,900 square feet, which means there's potentially 2 lots here. And so what we did is we were able to buy this house and negotiate it. We paid 100 cents on the dollar of what a single lot, a teardown house on a single lot is worth in this area. The sellers didn't give much value to the fact that this was a higher density zone lot because it had a single family home on it previously. Well, the lot was zoned R2.5, which means we have split the lot, and we are now able to build 2 townhomes on it. We paid $350,000 for this house as it sits. I think that's the, yeah, so we'll go back. I want you to see the pictures while I'm talking about it. So I want to talk about the numbers and how we negotiated. We paid $350,000 for the lot, which was the going price at the time for a single lot that had a single teardown on it, that you could tear down one and build one in its place. And again, the owners didn't give a lot of value to the fact that we could tear down one and build 2 in its place, which is what we're doing. So given that, we could have flipped this house for probably $100,000 to $125,000 at the time, right after we bought it, because it's potentially 2 lots, not 1. Now the structures you build on them are going to be smaller. They're going to be attached townhomes to the overall lot size, but we still could have easily flipped this for probably $450,000 to $475,000. And we actually had an offer, but we turned it down. Now that I think back on it, because we wanted to build the townhome. So what we did is we tore down this house, and then we split the lot, and now we have 2 lots. And we could easily, now that it's split and we have the 2 lots, we could probably sell them together for, probably $550, so probably, $275 a lot. But we're not going to do that because we can build 2 townhomes and we can sell each townhome for around $800,000 a piece. So you can see why we'll keep it. But if we didn't want to, we had an offer on the table for over $100,000 profit right there. So the key takeaways with this one was, number one is we paid the sellers what they thought the going rate was for a single lot with a single house on it that could be tore down, but we were able to create more value if we were going to flip it out right away because it could be subdivided into 2 lots. So this is one example, but there's a lot of different opportunities out there like this. It may not be an R2.5 zoning, but maybe you find a 10,000 square foot lot that has 1 house on it, but that 1 house could be scraped or knocked down, and then a builder could split the lot and have 2 5,000 square foot lots and build 2 homes in its place. So if you can get that tied up for anywhere near what a 1 lot teardown price is, you've just made yourself a huge payday. And there's tons of opportunity out there like this in these nice infill neighborhoods. And so this is a real important concept that I want you guys to understand. And zoning is something that a lot of real estate investors don't pay any attention to, and you really, really need to. And by paying attention to zoning here, we could have made ourselves an easy 100,000+. Instead, we're going to actually build out these townhomes, and we'll probably make somewhere around 250 to 300,000 per townhome at this point, which is why we're keeping them, right? So, but it's important to understand the opportunity that's there for you as a wholesaler, just finding this type of deal and then selling it to somebody like me who would build it out, right? So hopefully you guys understand that, but zoning is important. Most real estate investors pay 0 attention to it whatsoever when they get leads in. you absolutely want to pay attention to zoning, especially when you're going after teardown leads, because it can add tremendous value to the property that you have, and you may not even know it. And a lot of times the owners don't know it either. All right, so we talked about the numbers. All right, so let's talk about other deals that other people have gotten recently, right? Here's a couple guys in our Deal Finders Academy. These are all within the last month. We talk a lot about flipping teardowns in our Deal Finders Academy. Most people in the academy have purchased the training as well. In fact, pretty much everybody has, and they use this strategy within their own business each and every day. One of our guys up in Boston area, he just got a deal that he flipped out and made a $80,000 profit on one deal. I guess I'll give you some of the details on this. He basically was marketing for teardowns in a few different areas in his market. He's actually started doing new construction like one at a time, but he continued to keep his marketing machine going while he's doing new construction, and he's marketing in a few different pockets. The pocket where this lead came from is not one that he was building in currently. It was a little bit across town, so he didn't want to do a deal there. The lot size was a little funky too. It was kind of a funky shaped lot, so he just didn't love it. But he locked it up, got it under contract because he knew it was a deal, and he called 3 builders, and all 3 of them wanted it, and the price actually got bid up, and he ended up getting a non-refundable $10,000 earnest money deposit from one of the builders the next day after he got it locked up, and they closed shortly thereafter, and he made an $80,000 profit on one deal. So hopefully you're starting to see the opportunity here, with what you can make. Now, he bought the lot for, I believe it was $330,000, and I think it got bid up to $410,000. So it's a little higher dollar there. But the second deal, this is not higher dollar. This is a deal that another guy actually here in my local market. We don't normally allow people in our local market here in the DFA, but he agreed to stick to the other side of town that we don't market to, and so we agreed to let him in. I've got to know him really well over the course of the last year and a half or so, and he's a great guy. But he got this deal that came in just a couple of weeks ago, and this deal he's buying it for just under $200,000, and he's flipping it out for just over $300,000. And so he's going to make $120,000 on a $300,000 sale. That's assignment fee. Easy money, right? I mean, and so here's how we found this deal. Again, it was a driving for dollars lead. He targeted the types of houses that are, look like a teardown, but it looked like a teardown on a bigger lot. Well, as it turns out, it is a bigger lot, but it's actually 2 lots. But it was owned by the same person who owned the house as well. And so he was able to get it locked up at essentially a 1-lot fixer price, and he then sold it off as 2 buildable lots to a builder that I actually hooked him up with, who I knew was looking for inventory, and it took him all about a day after he got the contract on this thing to sign a new deal with the builder for $120,000 profit. So these deals can be done, and they're done by other people. There's tons of other deals that people have done and made a ton of money on as well, but I just wanted to kind of talk about these 2 most recent ones that literally happened this last month from other people within our Deal Finders Academy that obviously I keep close tabs on, so I know about their deals. They're real deals, and so I can talk about them. So one of them was a little higher price point. As you go up in price point, there's more opportunity to make more money with your assignments. But even with a $300,000 sale price to your flip out price, our guy's making $120,000 profit on it. So you don't have to be in those monstrous price points to make those big spreads. You just have to know what you're looking for, and you have to take advantage of some of the things that I talked about here already, which is zoning, lot size, areas, things like that. So super, super important to keep that in mind. But this opportunity extends all over the country. And like I said, if you're in a super, super low dollar market, it might be a little more challenging to find the areas within your market where you can make the most money doing this. But anywhere that there's infill new construction going on, you can utilize this niche and you can make a lot of money. And when I say infill new construction, I'm talking about new construction that's happening within already established neighborhoods or areas. We're not talking about building on the outskirts of your city. We're talking about already established areas. Generally the closer you get to the city's core, the easier it is to flip deals like this for big profits, because the closer you get to the city's core, the more demand there is for housing. And so and there's also usually the higher the density of the land that's there, because as you get closer in, the zoning is higher density than it is if you're on the outskirts, which gives you, as a real estate investor, more opportunity to find those types of leads where maybe one house could be knocked down and two houses or two townhomes or three townhomes could be built in its place. And again, that's another way for you to widen your margin and potentially make a ton more money being an inventory provider to a builder. Or if you're going to keep and build it yourself, make a much bigger spread than you would be otherwise. So it's kind of a two-pronged attack. You can start by finding these types of deals and wholesaling them to builders, and you can make amazing money, as you can see right here, 80K to 120K just wholesaling. And then as you grow and you kind of climb the real estate investing ladder, and maybe you start building a house or two of your own at some point in the future, you can use this same skill set to source deals at such a huge discount over your competition to then build them out and, you know, make twice the money or more that other builders are making in your market. So there's always the opportunity to do more, but even with just wholesaling these types of deals, I mean, you're making one deal 80K, another deal 120K. The ones I just talked about were, you know, about the same. One was around 80K, the other was probably 100, 125K. I mean, think about how many deals you have to do of your standard, you know, fix and flips. If you're wholesaling those deals to a rehabber who's going to fix it and flip it, I mean, you know, you got to do a lot of deals to get spreads like that. And so, you know, $120,000 worth of assignment fees selling to a rehabber, you know, that might be 5, 6, 7, 10 deals depending on your market. And like I said earlier, it takes a lot of marketing, a lot of support staff, a lot of phone calls, a lot of contracts, a lot of babysitting, a lot of headaches. It takes a lot more work to generate that same $120,000 worth of assignment profit doing, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10 deals than it does one. And there, you know, you got to sell all those deals. You got to deal with all the rehabbers. You get one deal like this, you flip it to a builder, and you get a nice spread. You know, it's all about working smarter and not harder. So I'm not saying you have to abandon the other side of your business where you find deals and you flip them to rehabbers, but why not utilize this skill set, right? And then take advantage of these types of leads when they come into your marketing funnel and really, really maximize the amount of money that you can make off of leads that other real estate investors might not know what to do with because they're 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes and they don't know anybody that would want to buy them. So really important thing to think about there. Hopefully I'm opening your eyes to the opportunity that this niche has and really the kind of money that you can make, you know, at least not having all of your focus on this niche, but at least being aware of it and knowing how to process leads that come in, identify value for these types of leads, and then know how to flip them out to, you know, the right buyer. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit now that I've kind of talked your ear off about the opportunity here and so a few examples of money that's been made. Let's talk about what is involved or included in the Flipping Teardowns training. So first and foremost, I'm going to kind of go through, there's a number of different chapters, and I broke it down into all different aspects of what you need to know about this niche, and I really dive deep into each of these different areas of the niche, and so I broke it up into chapters. So first chapter is all about the link between new construction and real estate investor. We talk about you know, why it is that builders need you. And you know, they're basically set up to build, you're set up to find deals, and so it's a marriage made in heaven. It really is. And so it's crucial to understand that relationship and kind of build the bridge between real estate investors and builders. What is the value of this strategy and why should you use it? Well, I think we talked a lot about that on this webinar, but we go even deeper, and we hopefully fully convince you at that point, if you're not already convinced, that there's huge value in using this strategy. Then we get into where to start, right? This is kind of the chicken and the egg. Do you find properties first, or do you find the people that you sell to first? I'm a big advocate of both. Obviously, you want to build relationships with people who are going to be great buyers from you in terms of builders, but you also want to get to know your areas, and you want to know where to start in terms of trying to find these types of leads and market to them. So we go through kind of nuts and bolts of where to start. You can pick which one you want to start with, but I would say start with both at the same time. There's no reason why you can't. Then we get into another chapter on analyzing your farm areas. So I talk a lot about, or earlier in this webinar, I talked a lot about, you know, knowing your market, knowing the parts of your market that are good for infill new construction, which basically makes it good for, you know, flipping teardowns. So we go through all of the things you need to know to analyze your market and identify and analyze the farm areas within it that would be great for this niche and ultimately allow you to make a lot of money. this is probably one of the most important chapters, because you have to know where to market for these types of properties. And so we go through all the fundamentals of exactly where to look in order to figure that out for your particular market. All right, the next chapter is going to be all about how to find home builders, right? There's a lot of builders out there, but we talk about how to find the right types of builders, because there's custom builders, there's production builders, and there's spec builders, and we go through exactly which ones you need to find and why, and how you can go about doing that for your market. And so having the right type of builder buyer will make this niche so much easier and so much more profitable than if you don't. But it's really not that hard to do it right. You just have to know what you're doing and know what you're asking, and knowing how to find these guys and what to tell them. And so being that I'm a builder, I kind of pull back the curtain and I tell you exactly what you need to know. So when you sit down with these guys, you don't sound like an idiot. You sound like you know exactly what you're talking about, which ultimately is going to allow them to have confidence in you, and they're going to be more than willing to sign on the dotted line whenever you get a deal in their areas that they're interested in. Then we're going to go into the next chapter is all about targeting the right property. So we have analyzed the right areas for you, or taught you how to analyze the areas that you need to be in. Now it's all about targeting the right types of properties within those areas. And this is how you go through and you create the list of properties that you ultimately need to market to. But targeting the right properties within the areas that we've determined are good for flipping teardowns within your market, super, super important. If you're marketing the wrong types of properties, maybe they're rehab deals, but they're not going to be flipping teardown deals more than likely. So we really want you to know exactly what it is that you're looking for. That's the beauty of this strategy. With rehabs, when you're marketing for rehabs, a lot of people just, they'll send out 10,000, 20,000 postcards a month, just kind of shotgun strategy. With this strategy, you can literally market exact houses that fit the bill for what you're looking for in order to then, make a ton of money flipping them over to builders or building them yourself. So super important chapter. And then the next chapter is a lot of the details that you need to know about new construction, so that you feel comfortable not only identifying deals, but then doing due diligence, some front-end due diligence on deals before you offer them up to builders. And it just gives you some answers to things that they're going to look at and could affect value in their eyes. So I want you guys to know all those things ahead of time, so when you look at these leads, you're identifying these value issues or these value pluses before you put it in front of a builder, and that way you can also maximize your money, right? You know what you're up against. If you've got an absolutely platinum lot, or if you got a lot that maybe has a few challenges, you'll know by having this chapter available to you. And then the next chapter is all about marketing for deals, exactly how we market for these types of deals, mainly using direct mail, and it goes through all the strategies that we use to do that, and how we consistently generate these types of leads day in and day out by using the exact strategies we talk about in the marketing for deals section. So that's pretty much the chapters in this book in a nutshell, but I wanted to kind of go through this so that you guys, if you do choose to invest in the training, you know what you're going to get. All right, so let's talk about the value of this book. And it's called a book here, but really it's a training. And so the value of it is tremendous. I mean, if you use this niche one time in the next year, and let's say you only make $10,000, I mean, that's huge, right? But the reality is that if you go through this training, you digest the information, and you put it to work, or if you just have it be in addition to everything else that you're doing, you should be easily able to generate at least 2 or 3 teardown deals over the course of the next year without even really focusing on it, that could generate you over $100,000 in additional revenue, easily. Now, if you go gangbusters and you really focus on this, I mean, the sky's the limit. You could make a ton of money doing this. But like I said before, there's more opportunity in this niche than any other in real estate investing right now in the residential world. So, I mean, the value of this book is, I think it's immeasurable, honestly, or this training, because it'll put you in front of the biggest opportunity that we have as real estate investors right now, with where we're at in the market cycle and what's going on in residential real estate. So, here's the offer. Here's what we've got going on. The flipping teardown training, you get it 2 ways. And the reason why I did it 2 ways is because I just can't bring myself to actually read a book of this size. So For those of you that are readers, great. There's a lot of diagrams and things like that that you should look at within the actual PDF book, but we did an MP3 audio file as well. So you can literally listen to this on your phone, just like a podcast when you're driving around, and then you can utilize the PDF to look at all of the diagrams and things like that that are important in the detail section about understanding how to properly value a teardown or a lot. So we did it both ways. Recording the MP3 took me a long time. So for those of you that don't like to read so much, I hope you enjoy it. I know that, like I said, if I'm going to purchase a training, I like to be able to listen to it and then just reference the PDF. So basically, you can buy the Flipping Teardowns training for $2.99. It's going to be available only until Sunday night. But we have an addition too. If for those of you that have any interest in building new construction, on top of potentially just flipping teardowns to other builders at some point, we're going to bundle it, and you can get our new construction masterclass, which we actually charged $400 for this initially when we launched it, one time a few months ago. But we're giving it to you for only $100 more. So if you want to get into new construction eventually, this masterclass goes through everything, soup to nuts, in terms of after you secure the deal and then go from there to actually building new construction. For those of you that are interested in that, I strongly suggest that you bundle it, because it's only $100 extra bucks, and we're never going to sell this thing for anywhere close to that cheap. So if you're just interested in flipping teardowns, $2.99 is a steal. But if you're interested in flipping teardowns and potentially building new construction at some point in the future, it's only $100 more, and you get both. So we put together this offer for you guys. It's a pretty damn good offer, so I would say take advantage of it. We are only going to be available until Sunday night, and then we're going to be taking it down. It's not something we want to have up as an evergreen offer, just because we don't want to oversaturate any given market with people that are doing this in their market. It's been a great strategy for everybody that I know that's utilized this training or been in our DFA, and I've seen them actually put it to work. But I don't want to oversaturate any given area, and I want to try and give people as much of a competitive advantage as they can using this strategy to make big bucks. And so that's why we're only going to have it available till Sunday, and then it's going to go bye-bye again. So I strongly encourage you guys, if you want to take advantage of this niche, invest in the training. Put the stuff to work, more importantly, though, after you invest in it. Digest it, put it to work, and it really will change your business forever. It changed mine. We make so much more money these days doing everything that's in this training than we would have otherwise. It's just crazy, and it's provided a ton more opportunity, not only for me, but everybody that works for me as well. And so, if you want your business to grow, you want to work smarter and not harder, I really, really encourage you guys to, if nothing more, just open your eyes to this niche, by going through this training. I can assure you that once your eyes are open to it and you know exactly what you're looking at, how to market for these types of deals, you're going to be all over it, and this is all you're going to want to do. But, like I said before, you don't have to abandon other parts of your business, but it's a great addition too. And at the end of the year, if you do this right, you're going to be making a lot more money doing this than you are flipping rehab projects, that's for sure. So, all right, guys, that I believe that is all the slides. Yeah. So I look forward to those of you that are going to invest in the training. Couple announcements though before I tune out here. Number one is Dan has sent everybody who's on the webinar an email. In that email, there's a link to be able to purchase the training. So go check your email for that. If you have a Gmail account, make sure to check your promotions folder or your spam junk folder. Gmail seems to be really tight with a lot of our emails. So if you don't see it in your traditional inbox, check your promotions or spam junk filter, and then you can just tag it as not spam junk or not promotions, and it'll show up in your regular folder every time we email you. But Dan's sending you guys all out a link in the email if you want to invest in the training. Again, I strongly encourage you to. And then once you purchase the training, it will be emailed to you, that same Gmail account or whatever account it is that Dan emailed you at originally. And if you have any questions, of course, at any point, feel free to email us. We are always here to give you support and answer questions that you might have. You can just email us info@therealdealspodcast.com, info@therealdealspodcast.com. And like I said, we're always here to help. And I really, really hope that many of you guys take advantage of this opportunity, because it can change your business and change your financial life. And that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see happen for everybody that's on here today, and everybody that invests in the training. So go get it. Good luck, and I can assure you that if you do, you will not be sorry. That's for sure. So thanks for joining me on this webinar, guys. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email us, info@therealdealspodcast.com.